Hello and welcome back to Today in the NBA, where today I'm going to be going over the New Orleans Pelicans past regular season, their very short postseason, what they've done in both the off-season and free agency, looking at what they could do for the rest of the off-season, and going over some potential outcomes for their coming season. So to start off, the New Orleans Pelicans finished as the 9th seed in the West with a record of 42-40. They were 20th in offensive rating with 113.8, and they were surprisingly 6th in defensive rating with 112.0. Sadly, however, they did lose their first play-in game, which ended their season very quickly. Now their depth chart for the coming season looks like starting CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy, Zion Williamson and Jonas Valanciunas, and then coming off the bench, Jose Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, Herb Jones, Najee Marshall and Larry Nance Jr. Now the first thing that pops out to me when I take a look at this depth chart is the fact that Trey Murphy III is starting over Herb Jones. Trey Murphy has been starting since he was a rookie. Even though he was only a second round pick, he has been an amazing defender. His defensive box plus minus, I know it's not the perfect stat, but it's still a pretty solid stat to look at when you are trying to gauge a player's defensive value, is 1.7. Now comparing that to the Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson, who had a defensive box plus minus of 2.0. Now last season, the Pelicans surprisingly did hang their hat on the defensive side of the ball. As stated before, they were 6th in the entire league in defensive rating. This was quite surprising considering the fact that both Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson aren't great defenders. They're definitely above average defenders, but they are by no means one of the better defenders on their team. I think a large part of why this team was so good defensively, however, was the fact that both Ingram and Zion did miss pretty large chunks of the season. I'm obviously not saying that the team's better without them, but it will definitely be interesting to see how the team goes defensively without Herb Jones starting and with both Ingram and Zion hopefully playing more games than they did last season. Now the counter argument to this is how good of an offensive player Trey Murphy is. Trey Murphy last season had an offensive box plus minus of 1.4. Comparing that to CJ McCollum, who is definitely one of the better players on the team, he had an offensive box plus minus of 1.5. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that offensive box plus minus is the end-all be-all of advanced stats, but again, it is a pretty decent statistic to show and gauge a player's offensive value. In saying all this, however, I do think that starting Trey Murphy over Herb Jones was the right move. Trey Murphy had a great offensive season last year, 14.5 points on 48% from the field and nearly 41% from three. This is great and is definitely needed for a Pelicans team that definitely didn't put up enough threes. They were 29th in the league last year in three-pointers attempted, only putting up 30.1 a game, which is very, very, very low in today's NBA. Hopefully with Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson playing more games, however, that number does start to come up, and I definitely think that Trey Murphy starting will help improve that number. I think that was probably one of the bigger reasons, along with Zion and Ingram's injuries, why this team was so low offensively. They have the personnel to be a great offensive team, probably top 10 in the league, I would say, but if they are that good offensively, I think they are going to have to make a trade-off with their defense. I think next season they're probably going to be around 8th or 9th offensively, but they'll probably dip all the way down to 11th or 12th defensively. I do, however, think that that is probably the right way to go, as the team can win games when they score enough. Last season, I'm a huge Pelicans fan, so I watched pretty much every single one of their games, and sometimes the games were just a struggle to watch. CJ McCollum didn't have a great offensive season last year. He was struggling a little bit, but that definitely didn't help. Sometimes watching this team, it was just so painful to watch. They couldn't really put the ball in the hoop, but they were getting stops. It was just so sad to see them not being able to convert on the other end of the ball. Now, in saying all of this, however, the lineup is looking really, really good. From positions 2 to 4, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy and Zion Williamson, they could definitely switch between any one of them. If there's a pick and roll, maybe between the shooting guard and the power forward on the opposite team, they are definitely able to switch that. Brandon Ingram is 6'8", Trey Murphy is 6'9", and Zion is 6'6", but he is incredibly strong, so he's definitely able to hold his own against smaller, quicker players and bigger, stronger players. It will definitely be interesting to see how Willie Green plays his defensive coverages next season, especially considering he's got two probably quite bad defenders in CJ McCollum and Jonas Valanciunas, but the rest of the starting lineup are definitely capable of switching. The defensive coverages next year will be very interesting. I'd say there'd be a good mix of drop coverage, fighting over screens, and switching. Hopefully the Pelicans can remain a solid defensive team while the offensive rating shoots up. I definitely think that is the right way to go and is probably the path that they should try and take if they want to be competitive next year. As we saw at the start of the season, when both Ingram and Zion were playing, the team didn't have a great defensive rating, but they had one of the better offensive ratings in the league. I think they were around third before Zion got injured, and they were the first seed in the whole Western Conference, which is really, really good to see. And I think that if they continue that and get a good, healthy season out of Zion and Ingram, I could definitely see them being the first seed. Now, looking at the Pelicans offseason, I'm going to give them a rating of a solid B+. They didn't really do much this offseason. They did draft Jordan Hawkins, which I think was an amazing pick. I think that if they're trying to compete now, which they should be, I think he was definitely the right pick. He's someone that can come in, increase their three-point attempts. Maybe he finds backup minutes over Dyson Daniels, as Dyson Daniels is definitely a player that does need a lot of development and does need to work on his three ball, but Jordan Hawkins is probably ready to come in straight away. I'd say he's capable of being an average defender while being a great three-point shooter that I could definitely see Willie Green running some plays for him, not even to get an open three. Even if he doesn't get an open three, Jordan Hawkins is definitely capable of making very tough contested threes. He's probably going to come in and be one of the better movement shooters in the NBA straight away. There was talkings in the Pelican circles about how he shot almost as well when he was contested as he was when he was uncontested, which is incredible to see, and hopefully he does bring that to the league and to the Pelicans, who definitely need some more three-point shooting. The Pelicans did end up letting go of Jackson Hayes, who wasn't amazing last season, but the season before, he did show some promise playing the 4 alongside Jonas Valanciunas while Zion Williamson was injured the whole season. I probably don't think it was worth paying him though, especially considering that coming up, Zion Williamson's contract extension is kicking in. You are going to have to extend Trey Murphy and Brandon Ingram and probably CJ soon enough. CJ might not demand a lot of money, but the other two definitely will. And with the new CBA, it is definitely worth doing what you can do to try and keep the team's payroll down. It's probably not worth paying about, it was $8 or so million for a third string center, especially when, as I said before, you do have a lot of paydays coming up for your younger players. Now, I do just want to talk about some recent Damian Lillard rumors, mainly the one that was out on Bleacher Report. I think the trade was CJ McCollum, Dyson Daniels, Kira Lewis, and a couple of firsts for Damian Lillard. I think that if the Blazers are willing to accept that, the Pelicans should pull the trigger on that straight away. Obviously, though, I don't think that is a very good or a very realistic offer for the Blazers, so I definitely don't think that is going to be happening. And if that type of offer doesn't come up, I don't think that it's worth pulling the trigger on anything. I think the Pelicans should probably stay put where they are. They should pray that they get a healthy season from Zion and Ingram, and if they do, who knows, they could be finishing as the 1 seed, best seed in the West, who knows, best team in the NBA even. Now, looking at some player predictions for next season, we have seen Zion Williamson get back into shape, and he looks much fitter, much quicker now, and more athletic, surprisingly. I didn't even know that was possible, but he is looking much better. Hopefully he does manage to stay healthy. Same with Brandon Ingram. I think that if both Zion and Brandon Ingram manage to stay healthy, I could see them both being all-stars next season. I could also see Herb Jones making an all-defensive team, even though he's coming off the bench. As well as that, I can see Jordan Hawkins making an all-rookie team if he does manage to get some good minutes over Dyson Daniels, or if there is an injury in the main 10 players on the roster. Along with that, I could definitely see Trey Murphy in competition for most improved player. He's a great offensive player. He's definitely got room to grow, and hopefully we see that. I could definitely see him jumping up to maybe 20 points a game if he gets 2 or 3 more shots a night. He could definitely be great. Maybe he manages to get to the free throw line a bit more, get some more scoring inside. I could definitely see him being in the running for most improved player, and it would be great to see from him. Now, I can't really see any Pelicans players making all NBA teams, as Zion Williamson probably would be the only candidate unless Brandon Ingram goes absolutely crazy, and I don't think he's going to meet the 65 games played. I would be very, very happy if Zion can maybe get 62 or so games in. That would be great, and hopefully the Pelicans would be able to make a nice playoff run. Anyway, that does it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think Brandon Ingram and Zion are going to stay healthy? How do you think about the Herb Jones being on the bench and Trey Murphy starting? What do you think about the Jordan Hawkins draft? If you really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. I do post daily NBA content, so it is worth keeping up to date on. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.